Hello everyone, my name is Claudia and today I'll be doing an Unserious recap of Love by Chance Season 1. So there will be no mention of any plot line in Season 2 because I do not remember anything from Season 2. I had watched Season 1 a few years back and did not remember anything about it. It's probably because I skipped through the entire thing. I'm very good at fast forwarding when I watch shows on my own. But this time I watched it all, did not fast forward at all. There is some construction happening on the roof, so you might hear some noise. I apologize in advance. This show has a lot of problematic things that happen. I'm not the biggest fan. I have characters I do dislike, plot lines that are questionable, and I'm saying this because I want to be very clear that this is my opinion and it's not the truth, and it's not like everyone's truth, and you're allowed to really love this show, you're allowed to hate this show. It's still a very important part of me, this show, because it was one of the first BL I watched, and I know it was a lot of people's first show. At the end of the day, this is a very unserious recap. I'm just having fun, so you don't need to take this too seriously. I still had a lot of fun rewatching this. Trigger warning, there's a lot of depiction and mention of grape. I'm saying it like that because I don't want to be demonetized. If it's something that you struggle with, I would suggest you leave this video and also not watch the show. Also, bring a snack, water, anything, because this video is probably going to be super long, and just enjoy the ride, I guess. For people who've already watched this show, it's just going to be like a fun refresh, and you'll see my take on the show. For people who have never seen the show, well, I just saved you 14 hours of your life. You'll thank me later. First of all, Love by Chance is a Thai BL that was released in 2018. It was released from August to November 2018, and it's based on the novel My Accidental Love Is You by Mame. Mame has written a lot of books, and you've probably seen a few of her adaptations. Love by Chance being one, Tharn Type, Why Are You, Don't Say No, Love in the Air, Love Sea. I have a love-hate relationship with Mame. She really enjoys non-consent in her shows, and it's not something that helps with the plot. It's just there. She kind of fetishizes it, and it's recurrent. It's not only in this show, it's in all of her shows. Also, Mame, after doing a few shows with other production companies, she opened her own company called Me Mind Who I, and the sole purpose of this company is to adapt her book to TV shows. The show was produced by Wabi Sabi Studio, and it's also 3 years after the event of Tharn Type. The series Tharn Type was released after this, so some characters that you're gonna see in Tharn Type also appear in Love by Chance, but the actors, they've changed. We skip from one season to another a lot in this show. It's pretty normal. I think you'll just get used to it. A lot happens, but most of the things that happen have no depth. I think the show tried to tackle too many different storylines, and it kind of made it that there was not much depth to those storylines. I think season 1 was probably made with the idea that there was going to be a season 2. So that would maybe explain why some of those storylines are not completely fleshed out. We're gonna start with episode 1. Episode 1, I'm gonna go through it very fast. It's mostly an introduction to our characters. Some stuff happen. In the first few seconds of episode 1, we are introduced to our main characters, A and Pete. A is riding a bike, because in this show, when you're poor, you ride a bike, but when you have money, you have a car. Which, I mean, isn't far from the truth. It's just a weird way of differentiating those two different classes. So A is riding a bike. A is played by Perth. Perth is now under GMMTV. He was also 17, freshly 17 when this show aired, which brings me to believe that when the show was filmed, he was probably 16. I tried to look it up online, but there's no actual timeline as to when it was filmed versus released. So for me, he was 16. Everyone else on the show is an adult except Perth. And there's a lot of sexual scenes with Pete. We sexualize him a lot. We see him bare-chested, and it's something I do have an issue with. You might say that the age of consent in Thailand is different, but I don't actually care. It's still something that's iffy. I'm not like, I don't like it. I do not want to thirst over a 16-year-old man, a 16-year-old boy. I would describe A as being very confident. He gives off alpha energy. He protects his friends. He's very loyal. I also believe he's the strongest character in the show. He's the best actor, in my opinion. It's the one that's portrayed the best, which is surprising considering the fact that he's the youngest of the entirety of the cast. But I do like Pert's portrayal of A in this show. And like I said, he's very demanding. He can be pushy at times, but overall, I do enjoy A. And then we do meet Pete a bit later on. After A almost gets hit by a car, he swerves and almost hits Pete. Pete is played by Saint. Saint is now the CEO or owner of Idol Factory. And I would describe Pete as boring. He's not very fleshed out. He kind of reminds me of a deer in headlights. So he's always like there looking and there's like nothing happening in his eyes. Like there's no one's there. No one's home. And I don't think it's no shade to this actor. I think it's the way the character was written. But he was written as boring. But for now, he's very bottom. Like in this era of BL, you see a lot of the stereotype of top versus bottom. And you see that dynamic a lot with those two. So like I said, that's how they meet. It happens twice, okay, that there's a meet cute involving somebody almost hitting someone with their car, which is weird, but it's one way to do it. Pete does get injured in that scene. A makes him get on his bicycle so that they can go to the hospital. After the biking scene, we meet Pon. Pon is played by Yat, who's also under GMMTV now. I would describe Pon as being like a creep. He's supposed to be, I think, the comic relief of this show. He's supposed to be funny, stupid in a way, but he's mostly disgusting in my opinion. I think he has the worst one-liners in the show. Like he says the most weird stuff and he says the most offensive things. In my opinion, this man hates women. He is a supportive friend as a whole. He has an obsession with masturbating and porn. It's an interesting characteristic, I guess. And the first time we do meet him, he's going at it too. You know, he's in his bedroom, he's listening to porn on speaker, he's screaming and moaning. It's really intense, and I didn't expect that. So I tell you guys to maybe wear headphones when you watch the show because it comes out of nowhere. And during that scene, we find out that him and A are roommates. And I applaud A for being his roommate because I could never. He's disgusting. Like there's tissues everywhere. And we kind of get the understanding that it's a normal thing. He has like a big issue when it comes to masturbating and porn. It has an impact on his social life and his school life. And then afterwards, we jump to the soccer field where we meet our characters that are on the soccer team. We meet Can. Can I would describe as being impulsive. He is completely led by his emotions. He loves to pick a fight. He can be annoying at times too because of that. He whines a lot. He's fighting everyone. But overall, I do enjoy Can. He brings some comic relief that Pond, I think, is supposed to bring, but I don't, like, it doesn't work with me. So I do like Can. And then we meet Techno. Techno is the captain of the soccer team. Techno is nice. I do like him. He's a really good friend to Can. He likes to bribe him with free food. And then we meet Type. Type is played by Earth, who's also under GMMTV. And Type has a boyfriend. That's his entire thing. He has a boyfriend, Tarn. And every time there's a scene and he's in there, there's a mention of his boyfriend. Nothing, like he doesn't have a big plot point. He just has a boyfriend. And I do like this Type a lot more than the one that we get in Tarn Type. He's a lot nicer. He's a lot less homophobic. People might think that, oh, it's because it's 3 years after Tarn Type. But there's a season 2 of Tarn Type that's supposed to be 7 years after season 1. And he's still insufferable. Like he's still the worst in season 2. So I do enjoy Type here a lot more than I did when I watched Tarn Type the first time. Oh, and there's also Good in here. Good, we see him a few times. He's always with Can. He's like very slow. He seems boring. He's sleepy. He doesn't have a big significance. That's why he's not on the wall. Pete is being bullied by Trump. I like the name. Like, it kind of makes sense, right? So Trump is, like I said, he's the bully, but that's his entire personality. He's not very fleshed out as a villain. He seems to have, like, he's a homophobic, but like he's also kind of gay. Like, in my opinion, he's a gay man with internal homophobia. He also needs money. So Trump is bullying Pete. He has blackmail material. We don't know what that is yet, but he's telling Pete that if he doesn't give him money, he's gonna send that video to his mom. While this is happening, it's happening in the parking lot. It's very public, and most of his bullying does happen in the parking lot. A sees it. He's like riding his bike because he's poor, and he comes to the rescue. That's a thing that happens a lot. A comes and saves Pete. I think it's the whole top-bottom dynamic that, like I mentioned, was very popular at that time, where Pete always needs saving and A saves him. So he shows up. Trump is like holding Pete very close to his face, and he asks him if A is his husband. Trump punches Pete. Then he tries to punch A, but he's unsuccessful. A punches Trump. Then Trump leaves, and he like promises revenge when he leaves. That's also a thing that happens a lot. Trump is like a fucking leech. He comes, bullies, leaves, comes back. It's his entire thing. Afterwards, we end up on a staircase with A and Pete. Pete is crying. A tells him to stop being a baby. Pete tells A that he doesn't want people to see them together because he doesn't want them to assume that they're dating. Then Pete tells A that he's gay. A is like, it's fine. Like, he's being very supportive. He's super nice about it. And then he tells him that being gay is not a disease, so he doesn't mind staying beside him, like he's not gonna catch it. But also, like in like 3 episodes, they're gonna be kissing. So does that mean being gay is contagious? Then we find out the blackmail material that Trump has against Pete. So we get like a flashback of that scene. Trump, he asks Pete to be his boyfriend. And then they start kissing, and then Trump pushes him on the bed. Pete sees that he's filming with his phone. And then Trump is like, yeah, give me money. And it was his plan all along, but it's such a weird thing because in the video, the gayest one out of the 2 is Trump. Like, he's the one who asks him to be his boyfriend. He's the one who starts the kissing. He's the one who pushes him on the bed. And I think it's an excuse because, I don't know, it's just so, like, out of nowhere. Like, he worked real hard to make this man fall in love with him just so he could blackmail him with a video to get his money. So that's the blackmail material. So he has a film of them, like, kissing and stuff. Then A, who, like, Pete is explaining that to A. And A is like, you gotta tell your mom, like, that you're being bullied and everything. Later that day, Pete goes back home and he goes to see his mom. His mom is the evil GL mom. That's how I recognized her. I saw her and I was like, girl, you're the one that caused trouble in all of the GL I watch. And then he goes to his mom and he's like, Mom, I've got something to tell you. You're allowed to be mad, but please don't hate me. And he comes out. I really like the coming out scene. His mom accepts him. She hugs him. They cry. It's very beautiful. I have nothing to say against that scene. And it was really advanced for its time because in 2018, every parent was like borderline homophobic. And for it to happen so early on in the show is also something I did enjoy. Then his mom, turns out that she already got that video. So she already knew. Another thing I'd like to point out is that his mom knows that he's being bullied by Trump, but she never does anything about it. And none of the characters do. So like every time Trump bullies, he leaves and he kind of gets out, like he gets off with it. And I was just surprised to see that his mom didn't do anything about the bullying. But overall, cute scene. His mom is accepting. Then we get Techno and Type at the bar. While they're talking, Toom walks in. Toom I would describe as being... He's nice. Like in the scenes that we get of him, he's very understanding. He's there for people. We do not get him a lot, and I would have loved to see him more often on screen and get more of his storyline. Tom is there, and he's got some beef with Type's boyfriend, Thorn. We don't really know why, but because he has beef with Thorn, that means he also has beef with Type's boyfriend. There's also mention that Toom has a younger brother that he's in love with. it's icky, there's a lot of mention of like incest in a way in this show. And yeah, so he's in love with his younger brother, and that's the only thing we get. Then we meet Technique. Okay, so Technique is related to Techno. He's his brother, so Technique, Techno. Get it. Interesting. I do like the choice of name. It makes it easier for me to remember that they're related. So Technique is Techno's brother. He's younger than him. I would describe him as being evil. I really do not like his character. And then there's also Kenkla with him. I think he's on the phone. I also hate him. I think he's the worst character on this wall. He just does the worst things on this show, and Technique facilitates it all. So in this scene, Technique has like pictures of his brother Techno sleeping that he took for Kenkla in exchange for like favors from Kenkla. So we get the understanding that Kenkla is in love with Techno, and that Technique is like using his brother to get favors and to get like stuff from Kenkla. Then we get Pawn. He's just like harassing that one cafe worker called Sha'im. She doesn't have like the same poster that everyone else, because all of them I went to Walmart for, and then I realized I should probably add these. So I just printed them at home, so they didn't get the Walmart favor. That's why they're kind of iffy. So he's talking to Sha'im, who's a cafe worker, and he's legit harassing her. I won't spend a lot of time talking about those two. They do end up together, spoiler. And I don't know why, because he's so gross and she deserves a lot better, in my opinion. Shyam, I don't have much to say about her. I think she's nice. She's fun. She deserves better. Pete and A, they go out to eat. Pete uses a shuttle bus for the first time, and then they hold wrists. And that's the end of episode 1. In the beginning of episode 2, Pete is parked illegally. Then a policeman show up and he's like, move your car, it's there illegally. And he kind of like shades Pete on being rich and doing whatever he wants. And A sees it all and he comes to the rescue. When I watched that scene for the first time, I was like, boy, stand down, because that's the police. And the police is right. Like this dude is just parking illegally. Just move your car. So he just like fights off the policeman. But Pete does end up moving his car. So I think the purpose of this scene was to show how A is already protective and defending Pete. So afterwards, they bike together. While they're biking, Pete tells A that he does not eat breakfast. A is like so shook that he breaks, and then Pete hits his head on his back. It's very dramatic. And then A is just like, but like, you have to eat breakfast. Like, you're so small, you're so fragile. You have to gain weight. And just Pete is so awkward the entire time. He's just there. Like I said, deer in headlight. That's what he's giving. He's just like nodding along. And that's the start of them eating breakfast together, even almost every morning, I think. Then they head back to the dorm. They're going up the stairs, and then A tells Pete that he hasn't been sleeping very well because last night, I guess, Pom was listening to porn so like hard, like no headphones, that he was kept up, and it was so loud that the neighbors on the same floor, they all showed up to their door, and they thought like that, like Pon had a woman over because he was being so loud. And for some reason they knock, and then Pon opens the door, and then they join him for the porn party. And I'm not a dude, but like, do you guys actually have parties where you all masturbate together? I don't know. I have brothers, and it's not something I've heard of before. I don't think I'd enjoy those type of parties. Kudos to this man for having Pon as a roommate. When they get inside the dorm, Pon is sleeping, and he's legit touching himself while he's sleeping. Then at one point, Pon wakes up, and he's convinced that they're gonna hook up. Then he just leaves. At this point, A is shirtless. I think he was supposed to go inside the shower, which is why he's shirtless. And they have like a moment, like there's music that plays, it's in slow-mo. A takes Pete's face in his hand, and he just like rubs it. He tells him that it's really soft. Then he takes his hands in his hand, and he rubs it, and he's like, wow, it's so soft. Like, while he's holding his hand, he tells him that he's like so fragile, he's scared he's gonna break him. At this moment, Pete tells A that like he's scared he's gonna start hating him. A is like, if I hated you, would I do this? While he's like rubbing him. Then Pon is back, but he's also not wearing a shirt. I think he also went to get a shower or something. And he just, like, he tells Pete that he's turning A gay. Okay. Jail. Like, fuck you. Like, what are you doing? Then later on, after Pete leaves, Pond tells A that Pete is clearly like into A, because when Pond asked him who his favorite porn star was, Pete wasn't able to answer. I don't think that's how it works. Like, if you ask me today, Claudia, who's your favorite porn star? I would not be able to answer because I don't know any porn star. And that does not mean I'm in love with somebody. Then Pete is with Tin, and that's when we are introduced to him. I'd like to say that I really do not like the actor who plays Tin, so I'm completely biased about this character. He's also problematic, Tin, but I hate him even more because he's played by Neen. And Tin I would describe as being problematic. I think I said that enough, but he's very toxic. He hates poor people. He has like a traumatic background that I don't care about. He's just a very hateful person. During that scene and most of his scene, he's pissed for some reason. At one point, Pete comments that people used to like Tin, so something happened, but we don't know what yet. Tin is also rich. He drives a car. And he has a famous last name. Tin is mad at Pete because he's hanging with Thai people, Thai program people, and Thai program people are supposedly all poor. Tin believes that Pete should hang out only with his own kind, being rich people. So that's where I'm saying comes like his hatred towards poor people. It starts here and it just never ends. We fast forward, we see Tin, he's next to his car. There's also a girl there. She's like begging for Tin to let her inside his car. Chan is watching from afar, and he's all mad and jealous because Tin can get all the girl. He also has a nice car. Tin rejects the girl and he drives off. Trump is back in the parking lot and he's bullying Pete and he's touching him, and he says, "You really think I want to touch you like that?" And I think he does. I really think he does. Then we see A, like he's not there, but he's somewhere else. And he's trying to call Pete, but Pete is not answering, so he's starting to worry. And while Pete and Trump are fighting, A comes back on his bike with Pond to the rescue. He comes running, he yeets his bag really far, and he pushes Trump away. Trump again leaves. There's like a moment between A and Pete where they're officially friends. Pond goes to school, and he meets Sha'aim in one of his classes, I believe. And they're like bickering and stuff, which causes them to get into trouble with the teacher. And the teacher has the worst punishment. She gives them like a ruler and she's like, you have to put it into your mouth for the entirety of the class, but it's like the same ruler. So Pond is here and then Sha'aim is over here and they're just holding it in their mouth the entire time. But Pond is just moving closer to Sha'aim. And I thought it was really gross because this girl is, first of all, she's already being punished and you're trying to like come on to her like that. It's just very gross and does not help, in my opinion, that Pond's a creep. Then Pond and A are in the dorm. They're arguing. I don't really remember why they're arguing, but Pond says just the dumbest thing ever, and I quote, by the way. He says, "I hope you get fucked in the ass." Okay. Like, why are we using this as a threat? It's giving kind of homophobic, but without being homophobic. I don't know. It was like, I was so surprised when I heard that sentence. I had to pause. I took a picture and I sent it to my brother. Then Pond and A have a whole conversation about tops and bottoms. Like I said, it was very something that we saw a lot back in the days in shows. At one point, Pond tells A that he thought Pete was a bottom, but then he saw how Trump pushed Pete into the wall and he knew he was a bottom. At one point, you just have nothing to say. Like, I didn't have anything to back this man up. Like, he was getting bullied, and because he responded to because he got pushed and he responded to that push in a way, that means he's a bottom. In a way, Pond is like trying to say that being a bottom means that you can get bullied, like you get pushed around. But he's still being bullied, so I don't know. It's a weird thing. In episode 3, Technique wants a girl's number. And Ken Claw says that he's gonna get it for him, but he has to call Techno and find out what he's doing and with whom. Techno also has a conversation with his friends talking about the fact that Technique has been doing that a lot lately, where he's calling him and trying to figure out what he's doing. Pete is chilling in the parking lot. Money, who's not on the wall, appears, and they are kind of flirty. and touchy, and then A sees it, so he comes running and he just shoves money away. He has no right to put his hand on that person. I don't know. He even if they were dating, he had no right to be so defensive and to legit hurt somebody because they were touching Pete. Money asks Pete if he wants to be part of the cheer team. The cheer team is mentioned a bunch in the show, but we never see it. A is in the cheer team, technically. And now Pete is, because he does agree. And A is all mad about that. Like, he's jealous. It's giving, you're mine. Like, you can only be with me type of vibe. But he's mad that Pete accepts to be in the cheer team. I think he's also still mad about Money touching Pete. Then during that scene, we see Trump in the back. And he's just licking his lips. Like this. Okay, maybe not like that, but he's doing it very intensely. It's weird. And I think he's just trying to be evil. Tin and Pete are in class, and Tin is still mad about Pete being friends with with Thai program people. Tin also tells Pete again about hanging out with his own kind, things like that. Pete tells Tin that one day somebody's going to change his mind about Thai program people, and he's going to love them, I guess. And I think it's a way to like foreshadow his relationship with Can later on. Then Tin says that it's never gonna happen because he's the master of his own destiny or something like that. Good for you, Queen. Good for you. Then later, Toom is walking around thinking about how he's in love with his younger brother. Normal thing. Then we also get a video call with Toom and his brother, and that's when we find out that Tar, Toom's brother, is played by Kuhart. And that's a slay, because that's our queen right there, and nothing bad can be said about our queen. We love Kuhart here, okay? The acting done by Kuhart in this show is also really nice. He adds a lot of depth to a character that we also barely see. And I really do like his take on this character. So they have a video call, and we find out that Tar is in France, but he's gonna be coming back soon for the break. Then, the usual, Trump is back. And he's punching Pete outside the school in the parking lot again. And then it like suddenly turns dark. Okay, so it's raining, it's dark, they're still outside. Pete is like being beat up. And Trump says he needs 200K baht, and after he's gonna leave him alone. Pete refuses. I don't think he has the money, first of all. And second of all, I would also refuse because, to be honest, like, Trump will be back. I don't think 200K like would do anything. I think he would just continue and bully Pete, to be honest. So he refuses, and then Trump steals his watch and his wallet, and then he leaves. Then Can is walking around outside with his little umbrella, and he sees Pete on the ground, and Pete is like mumbling A's name. Can calls A. They're friends because they're both on the soccer team. And he asks A, have you been like bullying international students? Because there's one right now outside who's like moaning your name and has been beaten up. A comes running to Pete's aid, and he arrives and he's like shaking Pete, and he's demanding him what happened. And at the moment, like, Pete is barely alive. Like, he's not moving. He's like beaten up really badly. And I'm like, sir, stop shaking him. Like, he's unwell. Can we wait a bit? But I guess it's all the emotions. And the entire time Can is in the back with his umbrella, he's looking at them. And they're being drenched in water because he's just using the umbrella for himself in the back, and he's just chilling there, which I thought was pretty funny. Then we see Pete. He's in a room. He's crying. I don't know what room they were in because it wasn't A's dorm, and I don't think it was Pete's room. Pete is crying because like something really traumatic just happened to him. A apologizes for not being able to protect Pete. And then they have a conversation, and Pete tells A he's not in love with Trump anymore, and that's how episode 3 ends. In episode 4, we're back in the hotel room. A asks Pete to remove his clothes so he can see the bruises, and he does, and then he like applies creams on his chest in a very sensual way. There's slow-mo, there's music, they have a moment, they stare at each other while he's rubbing him up. Then Pete asks A to stay for the night because he's probably really scared with what just happened. During the night, Pete has a nightmare and they cuddle. It's very cute. In the morning, A wakes up before Pete. Pete's shirt is like open, so he starts like touching him up. But like Pete is sleeping. And while he's rubbing him, he starts having a boner. And I think that's one of the few times A does something that I do find problematic. So kudos to him for that, because all of them, they do a lot worse. Well, most of them. And then he leaves, I guess. A is on his way to school. There's this girl who ends up being Shampoo. She's there. She is trying to get her bag from somewhere. I really didn't understand the layout of the scene, but she almost falls and A saves her. And instantly she's in love. Like, she wants to bang him, she wants to have his kid, she wants to marry. And that's the entire scene. Back in class, Pond is talking to A about him not spending the night at the dorm. And he says that he has a bet with Ping on who's bottoming. So another strike for this man. Crusty man. Back in the dorms, A is lost in his thoughts. And he suddenly asks Pond if it's normal for him to like get aroused. And Pond is like, yeah, it's normal. You're 18, you're not 80. And then he tells him, because I get aroused 10 to like 20 times a day. That's normal. And I don't think that's normal. Like, in my opinion, I don't think it's normal. And I don't think this man is like the man you should be asking for help when it comes to like sex and anything related to that. Because he clearly has like a problem. It's kind of sad that A's only reference is Pond. Then during breakfast, there's A, Pete, and Pond is there. Pond sits next to Pete and he puts his arms around him and he asks him to join them for the cinema, to go to the movies. Then A gets all mad and possessive because he's touching Pete. And then he shoves Pond away and he tells him, those cheeks are mine. That's a quote right there. Those cheeks are mine, guys. And it can be interpreted in two ways because both of those cheeks are his, you know. Then we head to the movies and A asks Pete if he likes Pond. Pete is like, yeah, but I think he means in a platonic way. So A is like all pissy about that. And he's like mad at Pond, and the entire time he's like staring at Pond angrily. And he's just like, what the fuck did I do? And during the movies, A and Pete, they hold hands. After the movies, Pete brings A back home in his car. They both try to get something from the back seat. They turn at the same time and they have an accidental kiss. A goes back for seconds. It's really cute. He tells Pete that he thinks he likes him because he worries about him. He wants to see him all the time. He likes being with him, blah, blah, blah. And then he asks Pete if he likes him. Pete is like, I don't know, which, you know, valid. You guys like have known each other for like 3 days. So I kind of get where Pete is coming from. Then A asks him if he can kiss him again. And without Pete giving an answer, they just kiss. I mean, it's good for him to ask, but maybe wait next time to get an answer. Also, I forgot between these scenes, other things happen. At one point, I mean, Pond is harassing Sha'im again, the usual. Also, Ken is playing with a soccer ball near the street. That's the second meet cute with a car, by the way. He's playing with the ball on the street. He drops the ball rolls on the street. He doesn't check both ways. Tin, coming with his car, almost hits him. Ken gets all mad. And like he's knocking on Tin's door and he's like, you gotta apologize to me. Like you're unsafe. You're like, he just tells him off. Tin is like, fuck off, I'm not gonna apologize. And you know what? Tin is not wrong because it's fully Ken's fault for not checking where he was going because Tin was like allowed to be there. So yeah, Tin tells him to fuck off and he drives off. King Claw is picking up Techno from school because his motorcycle is not working. It's one of the only scenes we get of them together. And I do have some beef with that because it's like we don't get really a reasoning as to why Ken Claw is super obsessed with Techno. So we don't really understand his motives and what like makes him act the way he does. Then we get a flashback and we see Ken Claw and Technique cutting some wires on Techno's car. And this entire like storyline is very problematic in my eyes. Technique is doing is harming in a way his brother because he needs stuff from Ken Claw. And also they're causing damage to like his motorcycle, which he will have to like pay for at the end of the day to repair. Also, Pete asks Tin to check up on Trump and see if he's doing like anything illegal. I thought it was interesting of him to ask Tin because Tin is like, he doesn't have any links to police and they have like, they're both rich. I guess maybe Tin has like access to a private investigator, but I don't know. So he asked that of Tin. Then we get the cinema scene, my bad, and the kissing. And then that's the end of the episode. In episode 5, it starts with Shampoo. She shows up and she's simping hard on A. And then Pond goes to pick up Pete because A is handling something. Handling being Shampoo. He's like with Shampoo at the cafeteria. And I do have beef with that because why would you need to stay with her? Like why? Pond picks Pete up. They go to the cafeteria. Pete sees Shampoo and automatically he's kind of jealous, which is understandable. Then Shampoo asks A to be her boyfriend. It's the second time she sees that man. She's really intense, like really pushy. And A just like does not respond, and she leaves because before he can say anything because she has something to do. Pete tells A that he should just go for it because they're perfect for each other, which makes A mad, understandably. Like, y'all just share a kiss, and then he says that. I would have interpreted it as like a rejection on my side if that happened to me. Then they don't really address it afterwards. Pete is walking with Tin. I guess it's like a few days after what happened with Shampoo, because A comes, like, he sees them talking and he shows up and he asks Pete why he hasn't been eating breakfast with him lately. And Pete tells him it's because I want to leave you with Shampoo. Okay. In the meantime, Tin, our menace to society, just tells A that he's a poor gold digger and a fake. Then for some reason Can sees it. He shows up because he loves fights, I guess. And Tin calls them both dirty because they're poor. So that's that. Then Tin is home alone and he has a folder and he just opens it, and then we can see that Trump has like a criminal record. That's the only thing that happens in that scene. There's no talking, nothing. He just opens a folder. Then we get a scene where Type and Toom are talking. We find out that Tar used to date Tarn, which is Type's boyfriend. And that's where like the beef comes from. Like, because Toom is in love with Tar, and Tar used to date Tarn. So like he hates Tarn. So that's where we figure out what the beef is. Then Pete is back home. He's talking to his mom, and his mom is telling him how she's worried about him lately, how he's walking home alone in the dark. And she tells Pete that he should probably get an apartment. And this whole plot line of the apartment, in my opinion, is just to facilitate A and Pete having sex. I think it's the only reason why there's an apartment. It's really to facilitate their intercourses. Then Can sees Tin, and then he picks a fight, so they start fighting. Can wants to finish the conversation from earlier. He's still mad about him not apologizing. Tin does the usual. He calls him poor below him and then tells him to fuck off. Then we see just Pete with a gift, like he got sneakers for A. And then he hopes like that he won't be mad because it's a very expensive gift. And for sure he's gonna be mad. Like, we've seen him for the last few episodes and his entire personality, and he's gonna be mad about it. I'm surprised Pete didn't realize that, but that's the end of episode 5. In episode 6, Shampoo is talking to Pete about A. She tells him that like she likes him, A, and that A doesn't believe her when she tells him that she likes him. And that's already a little hint, like when you confess your feelings to them. I would take that as a rejection, but she does not. She's very fierce. She's very intense. Shampoo asks Pete for advice for dating A and tells him that she can change herself for A, which I don't agree with. Like, girl, stay true to yourself, but also calm down. She asks Pete if he can speak to A about her. Pete agrees. Pete is self-doubting himself again. And by the way, they were heading to breakfast with A. So last minute, he decides to cancel on breakfast and leave, I guess, Shampoo and A alone. Pete is in his room and he's talking to himself. And then he says, A should date her instead of a gay like me. And then he cries. Then we switch again and Pete is crying again. But he's somewhere else this time. He's crying outside. He's like sliding down a wall very dramatically. And he's still like, he's crying about like the choices he made. A shows up, grabs Pete and drags him away. Pete won't tell him anything about why and like what's happening, why he's mad. Then A tells Pete that if he doesn't tell him, he's just gonna kiss him. I would have accepted that threat. But then I remembered that's a 16-year-old man. He's like threatening him with a good time, you know. Then he tries to go in for a kiss. Pete rejects him. He like pushes him away. And then he just tells A, you should be kissing a pretty girl instead. Then A repeats to Pete what he told him earlier, that he has feelings for him. He doesn't have feelings for her. And then Pete repeats what he's been saying since episode 1, that he's gay, that he shouldn't date him, that he should date a pretty woman, blah, blah, blah. And then he just tells A that he's confused, which in my opinion gives homophobic. This person is telling you that he likes you and you're a guy, and then you're like, you're just confused. In my opinion, that's homophobia. That's like a homophobic thing to do. Because I don't think he's confused. I think he's being very open about it right now to you, and you're just saying that his feelings are not real and he should like girls instead. And then A is like fed up. He hugs him and then tells Pete he wants to kill him. And you know what? I feel that because at that point I was also very, very annoyed. And then he says to Pete, I know I should be liking girls instead, but I like you and it has nothing to do with gender. And we cheer. Love that coming from A. Like, it was very cute, very romantic, and I approve. Then Pete tells A he likes him and they kiss. Later on, A is in his dorm and he's searching up gay sex online. He leaves his tab open, closes his computer, and then Pond walks in, opens his computer, sees the tab. And then A comes back inside his dorm and Pond tells him, and I quote, I didn't know you were looking up how to fuck a man's ass. No comments, but that's another strike. He says this and then he tells A that he's going to accept him no matter what. If he's gay or not, he accepts him. So half a strike for Pond, I guess. And then A gets all like insulted about that. As if he's not actually kind of a little bit gay. And it's kind of a thing in this show. A like never really comes out during the show. He never calls himself gay. And I think it's the whole, like this whole thing that we used to see in BL where I'm not gay, I just like you type of story. Pete and A, they meet up. Pete gives him his gift, the sneakers. A gets mad. Are we surprised? He tells Pete that it's very expensive and that he's gonna pay him back for those sneakers. Like, he does not accept it as a gift. Then Pete and Tin, they meet up at the field because Tin has info about Trump. Then Tin asks Pete what his relationship with A is. Pete says that they're a friend. Tin calls Pete a two-faced liar. And he clocked it because he's not wrong that he's lying. A sees them talk from afar and he's like automatically he's mad. He's mad about that. A comes and he pulls Pete away because he thinks Tin is like hurting him, which he was not at that point, but he does do some weird shit later. He takes Pete away, like he pulls him away, and then he explains to Pete the whole sneaker situation, that he's not really mad at him. He's just trying to explain to him that 7,000 baht for him might not be a lot, but for him it is. And then he says something that I kind of have a problem with. He tells Pete that he wants him to learn the importance of money and that he wants Pete to learn to appreciate the money he has, and he doesn't want him to keep up with that bad habit. And I don't agree with A for like during that conversation, because it's Pete's money, it's not his. It's just a weird thing, like that he just wants him to be more mature about his money. It's not like Pete is spending all his money on dumb stuff. Like, it's the only thing he buys, I think, the entire show. On the field, like after the incident, Tin is still there and he sees Can and they talk. For once, it doesn't start as a fight, so that's nice. Tin asks Can what a Pete and A's relationship is. Can says that they're very close. Then Tin calls A and Pete's relationship disgusting. Can comes to the rescue and we respect him for that. I think he punches Tin and then he tells him that his friends are not disgusting, that Tin is allowed to insult him, but he's not allowed to insult his friend. And we love that. We love that coming from Can. Slay, we love him. GG, strike, we hate him. Then afterwards, Tin is like at his home. He's in front of his mirror. He splashes water on his face. It's very dramatic. And he looks like a freaking psychopath the entire time. That's the scene. Then we see that Toom is picking Tar up from the airport, and that's how the episode ends. A is walking with his bike. He's gonna go meet up Pete, I think, at the field, and he sees Type. He tells Type that he's gonna go meet his friend. Type says, I didn't know friends hang out this much. A asks him, like, what do you mean by that? And he answers, what do you think I mean? And you know what? I think Type knows. Type has clocked it. He knows the tea. And we know it too, but he knows it too. At the field, Pete and Tin have like a weird confrontation about A. Then Tin tells Pete that if he wants a boyfriend, he should date him instead. He's like coming onto him. It's very pushy, very violent. It's gross. A sees this happen. He comes to the rescue. He shoves Tin away, rightfully so. He tells Tin that Pete is his and that he needs to fuck off, and then they go away. And then we get the really famous locker scene. And you know what? This video is the one that has the most views out of the entire series. Y'all are nasty. And you know what? I probably contributed to a lot of those views. So who am I to judge? Because I remember this scene clearly. Because I probably watched it more than once. So they're in the locker room. A shoves Pete on a locker. Like, he shoves him. It's not gentle at all. Then A asks suddenly Pete to be his boyfriend. Pete is like shocked. And then they start making out. Pete tries to push A away a few times. A shoves him back, and then he like restrains his hands. It's kind of, it's kind of iffy situation. I don't like the part where Pete tries to stop it and A restrains him instead of them talking. And when he like restrains his hands, he says, "Don't look at me like that. You're making me crazy." And then they start undressing each other. And it's very public. Like the locker room is very public. Anyone can walk in. But very daring of them for this, whatever they did. Because we don't really know what they do in that locker room. We know it's not sex because they do that later on. But I think there's some touching, I guess. Then after whatever they just did, they're sitting on the ground. A asks Pete again to be his boyfriend. Pete says, "Are you playing with me?" He asked you twice. He told you like 3 times he likes you. I just find it very annoying coming from Pete. Like, I know he has issues with like his self-confidence and things like that. And I do understand the trauma. But at the end of the day, it gets old. It gets old fast, and it does happen again. Where he, in a way, like, he invalidates A's feelings. He doesn't believe him, which I think is very toxic from a relationship. But when you look at the entirety of the cast and the characters as a whole, you realize that they're very, very green flag. Like, they're the least toxic of them all, and it makes you appreciate them a bit more. Then A tells Pete that he hates when he's with Tin because he wants to punch him in the face. And get in line, bitch, because I think I'm the first one punching this man. Like, I've been wanting to punch him for years now. So I punch him and then you can punch him. Deal. And then we are officially dating. So it's like the usual. Can and Tin are fighting. Tin shades Can again about how poor he is. That's the scene. And then Type and Tar meet up. And we come to the understanding that Tar is hiding something from his brother too. He wants advice from Type for if he should like tell his brother or not. And then he tells Type that the only thing Toom knows about what happens is that Tar had clinical depression a few years ago. But he doesn't know that, that's when we found out what happened, that Tar was gang raped, like he was sexually assaulted by a group of guys a few years back. Like I said, I do like their plot. I think it's not very fleshed out, especially since it's such a heavy subject and topic, and I think we should have put more time into them instead of into them. But Kuhart is really good at portraying Tar's character and the trauma he's been through. So, like I said, I really much appreciate Kuhart for that, and I applaud him. Back at school, first day officially dating, Pete tells A how much they missed each other. Pete tells A that he missed him a lot, and he's like, "My heart is racing." Like, it's really cute. And then A goes in to like touch his chest to feel his heart beating, and then he stops himself because if he starts touching him, he won't be able to stop. Then at one point during that scene, they tell Pond that they're dating. So I really like that scene. I think it's cute. I felt the butterflies, and it made me appreciate them a lot more as a couple. Then we get A, Pete, and Tin at the cafe because Tin finally has the information about Trump, which he supposedly had like an episode ago. But I don't know what happened with that. Tin tells them that Trump has a gambling problem. He owes money to people on the black market, and also he's a drug addict. So he's got everything, He's got a lot of issues. Tin gets Pete his watch back. He got it at the pawn shop where Trump sold it. So he bought it back. And we never see Trump again. I don't know what happens to Trump, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe he goes to jail. This scene happens. We find out all of these things about him, but then he disappears. So after that, Pete is asking Tin how much he owes him. Tin doesn't want Pete to compensate him. He says that he needs a favor instead. And then he asks for Pete and A not to be friends anymore. Well, that does not work out, by the way. A gets mad about that, which I understand. Tin calls him poor. End of scene. In episode 8, A is kind of mad at himself for not being able to provide to Pete what Tin can because he's poor. And what he means is that he wasn't able to buy him his watch back or hire a private investigator. Pete tells A that he's brought him so much more, which I find very cute. I like that scene. And he's not wrong because he brings him a lot of comfort. Maybe he does, he might not have money, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't bring him a lot of joy. They hug and then they kiss, and it's very cutesy. Then Pon asks Sha'im to be his girlfriend. She agrees. I don't know why. I would have said no. Then Pon like tells his friend group that Sha-Am and him are dating. Nobody believes him because who will want to date that man? And that's very valid coming from them because I thought the same thing. A asks Pon how his first time was, and I think it's crazy of him to assume that this man has touched a woman because I don't know. As a woman, I would never let this man touch me because that would be like the most disrespectful thing I ever did to my body. But yeah, so he asks Pon that. Then Pon, as usual, says the most disturbing thing. He says he needs to get Pete drunk, put him to bed, and then like get on with it. So he's just telling him to force himself on Pete while he's drunk. Strike again. Pete meets A's mom for his niece's birthday party, and they are chilling in his childhood bedroom, and A is all horny. Meanwhile, your mom is downstairs, so calm down. So like A tries to do dirty things to Pete, and his niece walks in. We see the celebration of his niece's birthday party, and it's very cute because Pete seems to be like a part of the family, and I really did enjoy that. They do not know that they're dating, and I don't even think that at one point in the show his family finds out that they're dating. Even Pete's family, I don't think they do find out ever. Tin is walking around. He's fighting with his mom on the phone. He's being very disrespectful, I guess. Can hears it, and he picks a fight. He goes to Tin, and he's like, that's not one way to talk to your mom, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't talk to her like that. Tin, like, straight up ignores him because he's being the bigger person for once. And Can's like, you're an unloved child. And I think that kind of hits, like, Tin in a very sensitive place because of his trauma that we learn about later. Then Tin forces a kiss on Can after that. And like, what are you doing, dude? There's no consent. And I don't know, I think it's just a weird reaction to like this entire confrontation. And then he tells Can that he should learn to shut up. He walks away and he like talks to himself and he's like, oh, kissing a dude ain't that bad. Then it's A's turn to meet Pete's mom while he's moving Pete inside his new apartment. They eat after they help Pete move, and Pete's mom tells A that she was very worried at first that he was moving on his own, but since she's met A, she's a lot more confident about this whole entire thing. She tells A that lately Pete has been a lot more mature and has been doing things for himself. And I need the footage because we haven't seen that character growth. Like, and I think by that she means that now he like cooks things sometimes and opens his own shrimp. He unwraps his own shrimp. And that's the only thing he does. Like, that's like matured. He cooks shrimp and he unwraps shrimp. So I don't know what she's talking about when she says that there's like a maturity in Pete because I don't see it. He's still the same person he was in episode 1. I'm back 3 hours later. So sorry if the layout kind of changed because I have to set up my phone every time. So let's keep on going. So we ended up at Pete asking A to stay the night. Then they're in bed and then where's my wand? A tells Pete that when he like at one point when he was talking to his mom, Pete's mom, they were talking about how Pete got more mature and like he was unwrapping shrimps and stuff. A tells Pete that when he was talking about unwrapping shrimp, he was talking about unwrapping him like a gift. Then nothing really happens. They cuddle and they sleep. And that's the end of episode 8. In episode 9, Can is having a mental breakdown on a wall because of that unsolicited, unwanted kiss from Tin. Then we get Tin and Pete in class. Tin is still pestering Pete about dating him instead of A. Can is home. He's having a mental breakdown about that kiss. And he says like a line that was not necessary. He says, these lips are for a girl with big boobs only. That's a strike right there. That's just gross. You didn't need to talk about her boobs. But like, I do understand the mental breakdown. It was unsolicited. It was unwanted. Then Tin and Pete are in class. Tin is still annoying Pete for about wanting to date him instead of A. He says that A is poor and will take all his money one day. And that's legit his only reasoning for hating this couple. Then Pete tells Tin that A is better than him, and then he rejects Tin. And he is not wrong. A lot of people are better than Tin. Then Tin says that Pete has been brainwashed and that they're perfect for each other. But Pete for once stands up for himself, and I'm kind of proud of him. Back in the dorms, Pond is hosting a porn party. Why not? and he tells A that they're going to be making a lot of noise, so he probably won't be able to sleep. Pond tells A that he should go and sleep at Pete's house and unwrap his shrimp before Tin does. There's a lot of shrimp talk in this show for some reason. It's mentioned quite a lot. So A decides that he's going to go sleep at his boyfriend's house, and Pond puts a bunch of condom in his bag. Later, they're at Pete's apartment, and A and Pete are making out on the couch. A tells Pete he's hard, and then he like backs out. I think he gets cold feet. A bit later, Pete is in bed and he's like not mad, but he's not happy because A left him hanging. And then he tells A that he's been prepping himself. So I guess we are clean, we only drink water, and we're fully douched is what I understood. Pete tells A, because it's you, I don't mind the pain. And then they have sex. Good for them. Tar has a nightmare on the couch. Toom sees it. Tar doesn't want to talk about it. Toom is very supportive about that. He says that whenever he's ready to talk about it, well, he's going to be available and here to listen to him. Tar is feeling guilty for not being able to tell Toom about what happened. Then later on, Can goes to Pete to ask him if he knows if Tin is gay. Pete says that he doesn't think so because he's been with a lot of girls, and also because he thinks he's a little bit homophobic, which he's right. He's correct. He's giving a homophobia. Then Can says the most out-of-pocket thing, the usual. He tells Pete, as like to justify why he was asking that question, that he was doing so because he's trying to prove his hypothesis that good-looking guys who drive expensive cars are gay. It's like an interesting like lie. It's so dumb because that would mean like a big chunk of the population is into dudes. And the entire time Pete is just nodding along, like, makes sense. Like nothing's going on. Like behind those eyes, there's nothing. In episode 10, Pete is on the phone. He's walking around with Tin. He mentions that he's gonna go meet up with Can on the phone. And then Tin, now he wants to know where Pete is going. He's interested, I guess. Pete tells him that he's going to the football field, so Tin decides to join. They end up on the stands and they're cheering A on. I think it's a soccer game. Pete shows up with Tin. Can is there. Pond is there with Sha-Em. Tin looks like he wants to murder Can. Can like gets annoyed, so he tries to leave and then Tin tries to trip him. Then Can tells Tin that they need to talk. Can drags Tin to the locker rooms, the same ones where A and Pete did some touching. Tin tells him that Can has been really aggressive, that he even punched him. Can tells Tin that he's the one who started everything when he said he was dirty and insulted him and his friend. Tin legit just says, well, I was just telling the truth about you guys. Like no remorse, no apology, because he was just being honest. Which is crazy. I would have left at that moment. But Can has patience because he stays. Then Can, like, I don't enjoy this scene because what Can is about to say doesn't really fit with the entirety of his personality. Can tells Tin, and I quote, "You're gay, right? You're the disgusting one. Very disgusting. Very homophobic." Yeah. His personality is gross, but the fact that he would be into guys does not make him disgusting. He was disgusting before. Then Tin says, "Is being gay that disgusting?" And then Can's like, "Yeah." Tin says, "Then I was right when I said that your friend was disgusting," because he's been touching Pete all over. And then he looks down, like to Can, like to his crotch. He's trying to say that he's been touching Pete everywhere with his dick, I guess. I understand the reasoning because he's kind of calling Can out on his bullshit. And I think Can hadn't like really figured out that they were dating. Can backtracks and he says that his friends aren't disgusting, just him. And when he was saying that being gay is disgusting, he meant that him being gay was disgusting. I don't know, Queen. I think he meant that Tin is just disgusting and being, I don't know. I have nothing to say. Like, I'm trying to justify whatever he just said, but I can't. Because it's like very homophobic. I don't know. You can do better, Queen. Like, I trusted you. But I'm very disappointed. And then he says he supports his friends. And then Tin says that he can do a lot worse than what he's done. Then we get like a flashback to Tin's childhood, okay? Tin is there. He's a child. He's accompanied by Tool, this man. But he's a lot younger in the flashback. They're like 10 maybe. And in the flashback, Tin tells Tool that no one loves him, including his parents. Tool says, well, if our parents don't love you, at least I love you. Then we get a little bit of fast forward, but not to the present day. They're still kids. And Tool is on the phone with his mom, and he's saying how much he hates it with Tin and how he wants him to die. And I that's like part of the trauma Tin has. From what we understood, he's hated by his family, and his brother wants him to die. Which is, it's sad. But I have nothing in the present to really hate Tool that much. Well, he does some other stuff that we find out, but he was still like maybe 16. So, it's childish things that child do. Like, I have nothing to justify any hatred towards this man. Well, I do. But like, he doesn't do anything shitty in the present. I mean, in season 1, I don't know about season 2. And then we kind of understand that Tool and Tin don't have the same mom, so they are stepbrothers. So yeah, so that's like part of the reason why Tin is who he is. It's what the show's trying to tell us. It doesn't redeem him to me in any way, because there's nothing to justify the amount of hatred that comes out of this man's mouth on the daily. Back to the present, Tin is like talking to himself. I guess he's back home. He says, no one you can trust. Trust doesn't exist. If you don't trust anyone, you won't get hurt. So again, the show's trying to justify why he's the way he is. And like I said, like 2 hours ago, I'm not a fan of this man. So I'm not a fan of this character. So I don't care. Back at the stand, Pete and Sha'im are talking. Sha'im kind of figures out that Pete likes A. And she's really supportive. So slay queen, slay. And then Pond gets like jealous of them talking. Sha'im asks him to stop because it's making her look bad. And then Pond says sexist things. Let me quote that for you. He says, "My girl is a virgin angel. Save it for me, so in the future I am the only one who can touch you." And then she calls him a pervert, and that's another strike for me. Like, this man's in the trenches the entire show. They're trying to make him funny, but he's mostly sexist and gross and he's like a pervert. And it's not done. He says something else in a few minutes that I'll tell you about. The other gross thing. Pond is walking with Sha'im. Sha'im asks him if he minds the fact that she's really reserved. And Pond says that he doesn't, that it's okay, that she can go at her own pace. He's gonna wait for her, and that if she does have like actual friends who get mad by the fact that she won't let them touch them, that she shouldn't be friends with them. And then he says that it's even better that she takes her time, because that means, quote, "My girlfriend is a wonderful woman because she protects herself." So, with that sentence, I kind of assume that Pond is trying to say that the fact that she's a virgin means that she's like better and protecting herself. And I don't agree. I don't think being a virgin says anything about who you are as a person. And that was kind of sexist, because we kind of know that Pond is not a virgin, because A asked him like a few episodes ago how his first time was. And he just watches porn all day. So I don't know. It's kind of a gross thing to tell your girlfriend, but I guess she likes it. The show tries to make it look cute. Like, she's like super giddy about that. I don't find it that cute. I do not. Then we get A and Pete bathing together. It's been really awkward between the two since they had sex. I mean, Pete is always awkward, but it's even worse right now. So they take a bath together. Pete is laying on A's chest. And then A is like trying to rub him. And then Pete's like, "Stop rubbing it." And then he continues because he wants to, is what he says. And that's gross behavior, A. Like, I like you, but not too sure about that. Like, that's twice, girl, twice. Then he continues trying to rub it. Pete changes the conversation. He asks him if he's available next weekend for his mom's birthday. A says yes. Then he tries to rub him again, but they start playing in the bath. That's the cute part of this episode. So they start playing in the bath, and there's like a cute little edit of them throwing water, laughing, and that was cute, and I enjoyed that. Also, I think I forgot to mention, like, I haven't mentioned Lay at all, but we've seen her a few times, and she's Can's sister. And at that point in the show, I realized that Shampoo's friend that I think we've seen a few times is actually Can's sister Lay. It took me a while, but I figured it out. Then we get Pete again. He gets out of his car in the parking lot because that's like their favorite filming location. The moment he like steps out of the car, Tin is there. And Tin asks him again to be his boyfriend. And I don't understand why he's being so adamant about that. I know he has this whole thinking that Pete has to be with his own kind, but I don't know. Sometimes I try to find meaning behind some of the characters in the show's action, and I can't find any, and I think I just need to make peace with that. Like, especially his character. So he's back, he's asking Pete to be his boyfriend. Pete says like it's never gonna happen. And then Tin says he's gonna take Pete away from A. While this is happening, Shampoo and Lei sees Tin and Pete talking, and they hide like behind a car. I assumed at first that the car was very far, but then realized further on that car was really close because they could hear them talk. While they're listening to them talk, Can arrives because he sees his sister hiding behind the car. And then he talks to his sister for a few seconds, and then he sees that Tin and Pete are talking. So he stomps his way over there because he believes Tin is like bullying Pete. He arrives, he asks Tin like, what are you doing with him, blah, blah, blah. Shampoo and Lei, they get out of their hiding spots to stop Can and de-escalate the situation. They explained to him that Tin wasn't bullying Pete, he was actually asking him to be his boyfriend. Then like Can is shook because Pete is dating A and Tin like has shown interest in him. Shampoo and Lei, they leave. I guess they understood that maybe it wasn't the best time. Can tells Pete that A is looking for him, so Pete leaves to meet up. And then he tells Tin that he's got to speak with him. Then they are alone in the parking lot. Can calls Tin out on this bullshit for saying that their relationship was disgusting when he's also trying to get with Pete. Tin says it's none of his business. Can says, can't you find a guy that's single and doesn't have a boyfriend? Tin then says, are you saying you're going to spread your legs for me then? You know? Like I said, you get to a point where you just have nothing to say because he does it so much. Like he disappoints me every day. Every fucking party he's in, I'm disappointed by the behavior. Tin tries to force a kiss on Can. Can punches him. Another strike, prison, criminals. There's a bunch of people in here that are legit criminals. Like they commit crimes and we let them happen and they don't get any punishment for it. And Mame does that in a lot of her shows. Even the worst ones, like the worst characters that aren't like main and it's not like romanticized, those characters don't get any justice. And I'm saying that as somebody who only watched Mame shows and not actually read her books. I have Love in the Air that I'm thinking about right now, where spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, there's this whole storyline with Sky and his ex-boyfriend, and his ex-boyfriend never gets punished. I think it's like talked about that he might have killed him, but like nobody gets punished by law in this show, and I think it happens too in Turn Type. Talking about another criminal, King Claw is with Technique. Technique calls his brother to know where he is and with whom. Techno says he's out at a bar with friends and he's taking care of the drunks. King Claw is like jealous. He wants to know who that friend is. And then he like asks the universe if he should put him to bed and finish him already. He says Technique has to help, but then Technique is like, no, that's like too much. King Claw is like, oh, it's okay. I got a proposition for you. And they shake hands. So yeah, we got this brother facilitating his older brother being assaulted by his friend. I think if like we were to make like a pyramid, and like on top, first place is like the most criminal person on the show. And then we get lower, kind of like in Dance Mom. King Claw would be at the top of the pyramid. And then Technique would follow rather long. Yeah. Fuck that man. He's disgusting. And he's even worse for doing that shit to his brother. Which is why I said earlier that I think Technique hates his brother. It's Pete's mom's birthday, so they're at his house. During this birthday party, we also meet Pete's childhood friend, Dali, who's not on the wall. She kind of explains that she wanted to go to the same uni as Pete, but her dad wouldn't let her. And then she tells Pete that they should like hang out more often now. And that's how the episode ends. Also, Dali is like there 2 episodes, and she's just there to like cause issues. And it's a thing with women on this show. Most of the girls here causes issues. They're either there to like test a relationship. I'm thinking about Shampoo and Dali. Or Can's sister is just there to, it's kind of toxic. She tries to push people into a relationship. You'll see later. The only one who isn't really that problematic is Shyam. So as I said earlier, justice for Shyam because fuck Pond. We're at episode 11. We are back at Mom's birthday party. And we're back to also peeling shrimps. Pete is peeling shrimp for Dali. It's a new skill he's acquired, but Dali hasn't acquired that skill yet. I did not know that peeling shrimp was like a skill that you could acquire. Like should I put that on my resume that I can peel shrimps? Like, would that give me more like job opportunity? I'm sure Dali could also learn how to like peel shrimps, but I guess not. So Pete is peeling the shrimps. A gets jealous and he starts peeling shrimps too. Dali comments on how they seem really close. And then Pete's mom says that it's normal because they go to the same uni. Because like I said, she doesn't actually know that they're dating. So Pete has come out to his mom, but I think in season 1, they don't come out as a couple to Pete's mom at all. I don't know if she's figured it out yet, but from her comment that she just said, she hasn't figured it out, because it's not because they go to the same uni, Pete's mom tells A that he should stay for the night. So Pete and A are laying on Pete's bed. A asks Pete if Dali knows everything about what happened with his dad and like all of his family information and stuff. Pete says that she does. And then A like gets mad because he hates that she knows as much as he does or even more about his family. He hates that she's close to his family and to his mom. He doesn't like that she acts like she's part of the family. And she's like a childhood friend. I like Pete has friends, and I think A should be glad that he does. He's possessive of Pete, but also his mom. And like, let this man have friends. Like, it's just a weird thing. I wasn't enjoying it. Mommy is trying to like make this jealousy hot, I guess. I kind of understand where she's coming from, because sometimes jealousy can be hot in shows. I'm the last one who can like shade people for liking jealous scenes in shows, because I do it all the time. But in this situation, like, it wasn't hot. It was kind of icky because it was very controlling, and I didn't like it. Then Pete says that he's gay and that he's not interested in her that way. And then he's like, in contrary, you're the one who looks like you want to bang her. And then he says Dali is a girl any guy would want. A tells him to stop because he's not interested. And then like Pete is kind of happy that they're both jealous of each other. So he's like giddy and stuff. I guess that gets them going, so they start kissing. And then A stops it because he says that if they keep on going, he's never gonna want to stop. Pete says, go ahead. I've got moisturizer. So I guess we're using a body lotion as lube now. I looked it up online and the answer was that it was not safe. So guys, even if you have watched Love by Chance, I'm here to tell you that using moisturizer as lube is not a good thing. So go buy lube instead. And then they have sex in his childhood bedroom with his mom like downstairs. So that happens. Toom and Type meet up. Toom is worried about Tar because of all the nightmare he's been having, and he kind of knows that they're hiding something from him. Type tells him that he doesn't know anything and to go and ask his brother instead. And then he leaves. Also, since like last episode, the show has had like a major shift where Tin and Can are kind of like the main character, and then Pete and A are more and more in the background. Those are like the worst episodes for me. It's when like you get into them that you realize how much you miss Pete and A. When we got to these episodes, I was begging to see them back on my screen. Like, I was just like saying like, please come back. Like, this was horrible. This whole entire plotline was horrible. I'm a hater. So Can is bringing Gucci, his dog, to the vet. He's there with his mom and Lei. Gucci runs away. He follows her and she's with Tin. And I don't know how she ran away, but I guess she ran with her leash on, because when he gets there, Tin is holding a leash. And then Can and Tin, they go to the vet together. And he's there for the entire appointment, by the way. What they use as an excuse is that Gucci likes Tin so much. And I think Gucci might be the only being that actually likes Tin. Poor Gucci, man. Poor Gucci. After the appointment, Can's mom asks Tin if he wants to eat with them. Can clearly does not want Tin to be invited, but his mom like doesn't give a shit. She's just like, shut up. I lost a bit of respect for mom at that moment, because you can see that your son, he's not feeling good about this, and you're still bringing Tin out for lunch. So lost the point, His mom, not the biggest fan. While they're eating out for lunch, we find out that Can's actual name is Cantaloupe. Good for him. It's one hell of a name though. And Lei is actually short for lemon. So mom's a big fan of fruits. And then Can gets mad that his mom keeps saying his full nickname, and he leaves. Tin follows. Tin wants to give Can a lift. Can's like, fuck no. Can calls Tin a snob that no one likes and that has like no friends. And like Tin goes on this monologue where he's like, I'm a snob that has no friends with a family that ignores him. And then he's like, my mother is just a second wife. She married because his dad are both rich. It's not because they love each other. His brother is his half brother. He's the heir of the family. And then he's like, I don't trust anyone, but I want to trust you. They're trying to redeem Tin, and it was okay, like a monologue, but I just find that Tin uses that as an excuse to justify his entire being. And I don't like that. But then like Can apologizes because he feels bad. He was like, maybe I was too harsh. And then Tin does a 360 and he's like, you thought, bitch. Psych. Like, you really actually thought that I was saying the truth? Oh, hell no. I was lying, you stupid bitch. Then Can punches Tin, rightfully so. He tells Tin he never wants to see him again, and then he leaves. At that point, I was on YouTube and I was checking the comment section of the YouTube video, and I was in enemy territory because the entirety of their plot lines, people love it. Like, people are eating that shit up in the comment section, and they're justifying, like, they're like, oh my god, Tin, he realized he said too much, that he was being like too vulnerable, and he had to backtrack because he's flawed, he's hurt, he's got trauma. And I don't agree. Because I don't know, I see the point of view, but also I see it as Tin being mean because he can. There's like not enough depth to this character. He's not complex at all. It's very straightforward in my opinion. Tin goes back home and his brother's on the couch. That picture is from that couch scene, by the way. His brother is okay with him. Like, he asks him like if he's gonna go eat with them or something like that. Tin says he's an amazing actor, tells him legit to just fuck off and shut up. And he goes upstairs to his room and he's having an inner dialogue again, and he's like, you can't even trust your family. How can you trust anyone else? Again, the show's trying to justify this behavior that he has. I do understand the not trusting part, but he's just mean. Like, he hates poor people. It has nothing to do with his trauma. The bullying he does, the homophobia he has, also is not isn't justified by his trauma. What would justify it, in my opinion, is if he just didn't trust people and didn't open up. Now we're back to Can's place. Lei asks Can if he can get a picture of Tin because there's this one girl at school that's like obsessed with Tin, and it's just threatening her that she needs to get like Tin's picture, she's gonna bully her. I read the comments for that one too, and people were saying that Lei was like lying to try to push them together. It's never clearly said that she was actually lying about any of that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And Can is talking to himself, and he's like, if Tin can kiss a guy like that, then he surely can grape a woman, film her, and then blackmail her. I just thought that he jumped the gun. I understand that like Tin kissed him, like stole a kiss from him, but I don't think that makes him a rapist. And then Can also is like, I don't want my sister to be bullied either. So he decides that he's gonna get Tin's picture. After that happens, Can gets back inside his house. His mom is there, and he's like telling his mom how much Tin is mean to him and how Tin doesn't want to be his friend. And then his mom's like, oh, but I understand. It's normal, baby boy. And then she compares his entire being to a TV show she's watching. She's like, rich people, they're not happy people. In my TV show, the main character's brother, well, they hate each other because they both want money. And then he's unloved by his parents, and he's just really sad. Another strike for mom. Like, your son is going through stuff, and you're trying again to be on Tin's side for some reason. So Can is just like, oh, okay, maybe I was too harsh. And he's like wondering if Tin was telling the truth before he did that 360 and said he was lying. Can goes to Pete and he asks if he has Tin's phone number, and then he decides that, never mind, I don't want his phone number because if I call Tin, he's gonna have my phone number and I don't want him to be able to contact me. Mood. I can respect that. So he asks Pete where Tin parks his car. At that point, he also asks Pete for another favor. The favor is not mentioned. Like, you don't hear it, and they don't mention it ever again in the show, from what I remember. So I don't know what that favor that he asked for was. Then we see Can go to Tin's car, and he leaves like a printer-sized apology letter on his windshield. And he's basically telling him that he's sorry, that he was too harsh, and that he didn't mean it. Tin reads it and he smiles. Pete and A are at the library. They're studying for exams, I guess. Pete is trying to help A with his English, but A is saying no, he's refusing. He's trying to like find excuses not to get his help. And then Pete says he's being like too much. Pete says that he's being unreasonable. And then A then says, should I ask Shampoo for help then? What I disliked about this scene, there's two things. First of all, it makes you realize that A knows how Pete feels about Shampoo, and he still decides to use her name to make Pete feel like shit. And the second thing is that I'm reminded, and we are all reminded, that he's never rejected Shampoo. She's still there. He's still like entertaining her. And I hate that because that girl also deserves to be told that he's not interested. And I don't understand why we haven't told her. Pete leaves and goes to the bathroom because he's mad/sad, and I understand. A waits for him outside. Pete gets out of the bathroom. They hug. A explains to him that he doesn't want to look weak in front of him. That's why he did what he did. He like wants to show him that he's good. He doesn't want to disappoint him. And like he just doesn't want to be a loser in front of him. And they make up. Back at the library table, there's a mention that A and Pond have a beach trip coming up. Sha'am asks Pete if he's going, and A just interjects right in, and he's like, hell nah, he's not coming. So Pete is like, well, clearly I'm not coming. And then A explains that it's not that he does not want Pete to come. It's because he has that one friend called Sun that's so fucking hot that everybody wants him. And then Sha'am asks A why he doesn't trust Pete. A has like one of those answers that I've seen in shows before, and I dislike that answer. I trust Pete, I just don't trust my friend. And I think that means he still doesn't trust Pete. Because if you trusted Pete, you would trust him to push your friend away. You would trust that if your friend came on to him, he would tell you. So is he trying to say that Sun like would do illegal things and like drug Pete? Because if so, maybe we shouldn't be friends with Sun. Then we're at episode 12. Tin and Can are talking. Tin wants to know why Can apologized. And then he's like, what if I told you the truth? Can says that if he tells him right now that he was telling the truth, he would believe him. Because why wouldn't he? And then Tin calls Can cute. And then he takes him out to eat as an apology. During lunch, Tin pesters Can for his phone number. Can keeps saying no, but Tin keeps annoying him with it. He also eats a cantaloupe in a very sensual way. And he's like, ooh, it tastes so good. It's so yummy. It's so juicy. I kind of like cantaloupe now. Cantaloupe, the character, looks fucking disgusted. And I am too. That was gross. After lunch, Tin gives Can expensive bags like of stuff for his mom and his sister. Can gets mad and he refuses those gifts because he doesn't want to be bought. He's like not a charity case and he gets angry. Tin apologizes and explains to Can that it's the only way he knows how to maintain a relationship. And that part of his character I do understand and is justified by the fact that he's rich and he can get anything. So I did understand where that was coming from, and I did like that coming from the show. Then he just tells Can he likes him, and Can runs away. Pete and A are talking. Pete wants to know if he's seen Can or maybe Tin. They've been acting really weird lately. A gets like all mad and jealous, and he like drags Pete away up the staircase, like on the ramp, and he's like, can you stop talking about other guys? And then they start making out. Then he tells Pete he's gonna punish him, and they go to his dorm. I was about to say punish me daddy, but he's 16, so I'm just gonna keep that to myself. In the dorm, A pushes Pete on the bed. He tells him he wants to do something really bad to him. And he tells him that he wants to make him moan so loud that everybody on their floor hears him moaning. Can goes back home. He asks his sister Lei if a guy can ask another guy out for a date. Lei says that, yeah, it's pretty normal today in this day and age for guys to date. We cheered. That's an ally. Then Lei goes to her room alone and she's fully convinced that Tin and Pete are like about to date. A and Pete are on the couch at Pete's apartment and they're talking about how much they're gonna miss each other during A's beach trip. And I really enjoyed that scene. I thought they were really cute. And I felt that, like I was feeling the butterflies. They were really cute. And then I was missing them so much because this is chaos. Like, it really is. We're in the trenches, guys. Tin and Can are on a date. Can doesn't see it as a date, but I see it as a date, kind of. We're 5 seconds in and we're already fighting. Tin is just dragging Can along because he really does not want to be there. Then at one point, somebody passes them and then says that Tin is a drug addict celebrity, something like that. Can questions Tin about it. Tin comes clean, surprisingly. So he explains to Can that when he was 15, he was abroad with his brother Tool, and he went to a party. He went to a party with some friends, and he didn't know that it was a drug party. The call came, and they arrested everyone. Afterwards, he did test negative for drug in his system, but it still made Thai news, and his parents called him a disappointment, and were really mad. And later on, he found out when Tool got drunk. Tool told him that he was the one who convinced his parents to send him abroad, and he's also the one who paid those people to be his friend and bring him to that party. He also called the cops and sent those videos to the Thai police. Depiction of families in this show is questionable. All of those siblings hate each other, except maybe Lei and Can, and even then Lei does some weird stuff. And I also don't understand his motivation, Tool, as to why he's doing that. Because is it because of the money? We don't know. It's not mentioned. Because why would this person be so hateful towards his brother? As much he hates him so much he wants him to die. I need reasons. Because as of right now, the show is just telling us that we need to hate him because he's like that. But I need more information. I need to know why. After all of that, Tin brings Can home and they kiss in front of his house. In episode 13, Toom wants to talk with Tar, but Tar doesn't want to. Toom says he wants to help Tar. Tar says he can't do anything about it anymore. Toom is mad because Type and Tar know, but he does not. So he feels like his brother doesn't trust him, but he trusts his ex. And he asks Tar if he's still in love with Tharn. And then he does something that's very out of character in my opinion. And it's one of the things that I think we need to put Mame on the stand for. He pushes Tar on the bed, okay? And then he tells him that Tarn will never want him back. And then he starts forcing himself on him. Why? Why? And it's really sad because Tar is fighting him off and he does it for a while. It takes a while. And he is able to push him away and then he slaps him. And then he cries on the floor alone. It's already fucked up for somebody, especially a brotherly figure, to force himself on you like that. But it's even worse because we know what Tar's trauma is. And I think it's a very disgusting thing for Mame to make her character go through because I don't know why we're making him go through that. What does that bring to the plot or to the characters? It doesn't bring anything. It's one of the reasons why I dislike Mame as a writer so much is because she uses Grape a lot as a plot point for no reason. Also, I didn't mention it, but last episode, Tin bought Can a phone. Can wanted that one phone. He was explaining to Tin that he already spoke to it with his mom and he was gonna pay her monthly when she gets him the phone. Can tells Tin he doesn't want him to buy it for him, but then later they're in the car and Tin bought it for him. And it's all part of his big manipulation plan to get Can's number because he switched Can's actual number and he put his inside of his phone. And then he uses that phone as a way for Can to owe him things. He owes him stuff because of that phone. And I hate it because it's I'm so, guys, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this man. It's just that his intentions are not good. He's not trying to be nice. He's trying to manipulate somebody. He's blowing up Can's phone and he tells Can that in the morning when he wakes up, he has to answer him. And between texts, he has to answer within 1 hour. If he doesn't, that means he broke his promise. Fuck that man. Yes, fuck that man. Why did we give them a season 2? That's my question. Can goes to his sister's room and he finds out she's a BL fan. I think she was watching Waterboy. It's been a while. I don't know what she was watching, but she was watching some BL. And then Lei is ooh, since you found out my secret, that means you need to help me. Help me find out more about Tin and Pete's relationship. And Can agrees. Interesting. A's birthday is coming up. Pete is making him a bracelet because he knows that if he buys anything for A, he's gonna be mad. He's making him a bracelet from scratch. And it's way too pretty to be actually made by this man. There's also a puzzle piece on that bracelet that says, "For you from me." I I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm not a fan of that writing on that puzzle piece. Afterwards, Techno lures Can to campus with food because it's break, so Can doesn't want to go to campus. But Techno's like, I'm gonna buy you food if you come. So Can goes. Tin calls Can, and he finds out that Can's going to campus. He says he's gonna come too. Can really doesn't want him to come because he wants to have lunch with his senior and he doesn't want him to be there. Tin doesn't listen per usual and he shows up. When he's there, Techno isn't there at that moment. He's like doing something else. And like Tin like forced him, like he like made, like he was, nobody invited this man. He showed up and the entire time he's complaining. It's too hot. It's smelly. It's noisy. He's annoying. Like, we didn't want you here, but you still showed up. Then he goes to buy something to drink for Can. And while he's out to get him something to drink, Techno comes back. And he's just like play fighting with Can and they're having fun. Tin sees them. He gets mad. He like shows up. He's like very cold. He tells Can to follow him. He doesn't say one word to Techno. He's being really rude. Can follows him. Then Tin tells Can that he likes him and he doesn't want him to be close to any guys. Toxic. We love that. Mommy loves that though. She really does. Like in all of those relationships, the other, like one of the significant other, the bottom most of the time, is the one, like he's not allowed to have any other friends. Ken Clyde's on the phone with Technique and he wants to know when his parents are going to be out because he wants to finish him. It's coming, guys. Episode 14 is cursed as fuck. A and Pete are talking on the phone and they kind of fight because Pete is being needy, but like he's asking him to not have any other friends, so I guess it's normal for him to be needy, like sir. After they hang up, A realizes that he forgot that it was his birthday, and then all of that brings them to A's birthday where they like apologize and they make up and Pete gives A his gift. On episode 14, okay, Can goes to Tin's house for a movie date. When he shows up, Tin's nephew, which is Tool's son, goes running to Tin and he hugs him. Can starts bullying an 8-year-old. He's like, your dad is fucking mean. I hate your dad, so I hate you. And then he makes the 8-year-old child cry. And then Can's like, stop crying, you fucking baby. That's a kid, Can. Like, what? Okay. And then he tells Tin that since Tin won't let him confront his brother directly, he was gonna bully his son instead. Then Tin says like a very rational thing coming from him. He told him that he was never gonna make his family suffer for what his brother did. So good for Tin. Like that's one good action from him. We're proud. Then we're in front of the TV. There's snacks. And Can wants to eat snacks. And then Tin says, girl, you have to pay. You have to pay with a kiss. Can really doesn't want to at first, but he does it because he wants to eat. And we're back to Tin manipulating people to get what he wants. So he starts kissing Can, and then Can tries to push him off, and he deepens the kiss. Can looks disgusted, but at one point he like moves his lips. After that kiss, it's just weird. Like Can says that it was really yummy and he wants a second kiss, but it's like a weird out of character thing in my opinion because he seems so disgusted by this man for the entirety of the series, and even during that kiss, that I was surprised that he wanted to go back again for seconds. So a trigger warning, we're about to get that beautiful scene from those three. So skip ahead if you don't want to hear about it. Techno is out with Type at the bar. They're getting drunk, super drunk. Type brings him back home. Techno is like out of it completely. He can barely stand up. His eyes can barely stay open. Techno goes up to his room. He gets into bed. Kinkla is already there for some reason. Like, I mean, he was waiting for him clearly. And then Kinkla forces himself on Techno. GG guys, GG. Then he tells him that he's so yummy and that he can't hold himself back anymore. The morning after Techno wakes up in bed with Kinkla, he looks mortified. Understandably, because he was just taken advantage of. And then Kinkla is like, oh, are you mad at me? Because technically you assaulted me. Yeah, so that happens. So he tells Techno that Techno forced himself on him. And then like poor Techno, like he looks traumatized. It's really bad. And he's like, can we forget about this? And Kinkla is like, no, we can't. It was my first time and now I can't even be straight anymore. And he's very pushy and he's a felon. We should maybe convict him of a few crimes, prison. Save Techno. Please save Techno. Kill Technique. Because I've said it again and again. Technique just facilitated his brother's rape. It's kind of fucked up, not gonna lie. Kinkla asks Techno to be his boyfriend. He never answers though because Kinkla starts giving him a hand job. And that's the last scene we get of them in this series. So yeah. fuck them. Toom goes to Tar's room and he sees a suitcase on his bed. Tar is like leaving early for France. He was supposed to stay the whole break, but he's leaving earlier. Tar gets back into his room. Then Tom tells Tar that he's in love with him in a non-brother way. And then, okay, I'll be so fucking for real with you guys. In episode 14, in this fucking scene, we finally find out that they're stepbrothers. For 14 fucking episodes, and I'm not gonna stop swearing, I thought those two were fully blood related. And the show makes you think that they are. It is absolutely crazy in my opinion. Because for 13 episodes, I was kind of hoping they get together, but I felt bad about it because it was gross and they were fucking related. So for 13 episodes, I was like, oh, but also, ugh. You could have told me in episode 1 that they were stepbrothers, but you waited 14 episodes. And I have beef with Mame for that. I have fucking beef with her. Oh no, like, oh my God, you could have told me like 10 years ago, for fuck's sakes. It's also not mentioned if they do share a parent or not. I don't know if by me liking them together, that means I'm promoting incest. Because I do like them together, except for what Toom did. Tar says he's dirty, doesn't deserve to be loved. It's very sad, it's very emotional, and I really do like Kuhar. We can feel the emotion. I almost cried. Like, it was really touching to see this scene. Tar finally tells Toom what happens. He explained that he was assaulted by a group of men a few years back, 3 years back. He was like drugged and he blames himself for being stupid. Toom tells him that he won't stop loving him because of that. It's really beautiful. They hug. He begs him still to like stay. And he tells him like, because Tar tells him he's never going to be able to love him like that. And Tom says, I don't expect you to love me. I just want you to let me love you. And it's really beautiful in my opinion. Like, I wish we had explored more of their relationship instead of those two. If season 2 would have been about Toom and Tar and they would have handled the assault correctly, I think I would have enjoyed a season 2 a lot more. Tar thanks Toom for like understanding and loving him. And that's the end of the scene. Lei sees Pete and Tin together. She spies on them and then she hears them talk about moving into the same building. So she assumes they're going to move in together and she tells Can. Can freaks out. He's like on the couch. He calls Tin. He wants to know what the fuck is Tin doing because like Pete has a boyfriend and Tin is interested in him. So why would he do that? So yeah, he's like being jealous. It's like one of the only cute scenes from them that I enjoyed. Like the little jealousy from Can is not really toxic. It's just cute and Tin's response to it is fun. So I like that scene. But then they ruin it all the time. They do something else and they ruin it. Later on, Can and Tin, they meet up. Can tells Tin that he does not like feeling the way he's feeling right now. He doesn't like feeling jealous. He then explains to him that he's not ready to take care of somebody else other than himself. He's not ready to give a lot of his time to someone else. So for that reason, he'd prefer if they stay friends. And I respect Can for that because it's a very mature thing of him to say. And to be in a relationship, you need to be ready emotionally to take care of somebody else and also to give a part of yourself to that person. But Tin gets mad because it's fucking Tin and he says he doesn't want to be friends with him and he leaves. And I fuck him and strike. That's another strike. So then we get a shot of Tin in his shower, fully clothed. And my assumption as a mean hater is that they put him in that shower fully clothed because he wasn't able to cry. And they had to hide the fact that no tears were coming out of his tear ducts. And that's why he was fake crying under the shower. But I don't know if I'm right. I'm just a hater at this point. So he's crying and he's screaming, why? And there's no legit character development for this man. He doesn't try to understand Can and his reasoning. And his trauma, like I said, does not justify his behavior, in my opinion. Then Toom sees Tar off at the airport. They hug. Very cute. It's the last we see of them in this show. And I think the show did not do them any justice. We should have seen them more. Justice for Toom Tar. Also, at this point, A is on his beach trip. And he has like a call from Pete. It's a very wholesome call. They tell each other that they love each other, and that's the end of the show. What I really didn't like about this episode, Pete and A are barely there. We do not see them at all, and when we do see them, they're not even together, they're separated. I would have wanted an episode of them just being happy dating. But the show had to like set up everyone else for a season 2. So I guess they decided that A and Pete wouldn't make the cut. I also hate how traumatic this episode is. Instead of giving us fluff, they gave us multiple assaults. So I really hate this episode. Episode 14 is like the worst of them all. Everyone is a felon in this show. Everyone's a criminal. Like these last few episodes really made me like A and Pete a lot more. The final question is, how has this show aged today? I think this show has not aged very well. I do still believe this show was important in some sort for the BL industry. After this show, we got a lot more BL because I think people really liked it. There was a lot of people watched this show. And we can't take it away from the show that they did like push the BL industry a lot, especially with international fans. But it did not age nicely. Pete and A have a very cute relationship in a way. I still think Pete is not fleshed out. He's very boring. One of the things I saw when I went on my drama list is people complaining about how boring their relationship is. And I understand, but like with how toxic and like intense the other relationships are, I get why they decided to put them that way, to leave them that way. A lot of assault that happens in this show could have been avoided. They don't bring anything to the plot. So overall, I would not recommend anyone really to watch this show, except if you're really bored. It doesn't have a really nice rewatch value. So that's my opinion on the show. I would love to hear what your opinion on it was. If you rewatched it recently too, if you had different thoughts as like when you did the first time. Because when I went on my drama list, okay, I went to see the review section and I was like clearly in enemy territory. Because tell me why those reviews are so high, all of them. And I had to drop down my rating because for some reason in 2020, I rated it 8 stars. I acquired taste since then. So yeah, that's my opinion on the show. So please like and comment and maybe tell me what I should recap next. Technically, I don't want to recap season 2, but if you ask for it enough, I might.